We have all been told before to go home and practice, and we would go home and try to start practicing, and we actually wouldn't know what to do. Well, I'm here to help you with that. To practice at home, it's very important that you find a comfortable, quiet place with not many distractions around. And make sure that when you have that place, that it allows you to sing at a normal volume, that you're not trying to practice these bad habits of singing, because that will show later in your normal singing as well. The next thing you will want to do before you start practicing is warm up your voice. Warm up is very essential. It doesn't need to be long. It can be just a few minutes, one or two exercises, maybe some breathing exercises, some lip or tongue trills. And if you're not actually sure what those exercises can be, I added some links in the description below, so check that out. You can choose one of those different exercises and start with that. After warming up, you will set a goal and a time for your practice. Now, successful practice means that you achieve the goal that you want to. To do that, you will do a couple things. First, you will find a section of your piece that you want to practice. For me, for example, I chose to practice today measure 25 to measure, let's say, 36. Now, a lot of times your section might already be assigned to you by your teacher, your choral director, so you actually don't have to do that. The second thing, the time. Now remember that short practices can actually be a lot more efficient and a lot more motivational for you, especially if you're just not the person who likes to practice. When you're setting up both the section and the time, the goal for your practice, make sure that they are all very realistic. Don't try to learn the whole song in 15 minutes. Don't try to practice for 3 hours, because those goals are going to be very difficult to achieve and you will not feel successful and will not have fun practicing. Now, if you're a little bit like me, I don't like practicing too much. So what I usually do is I find a little award for myself. So for example, I really like ice cream. So if I practice on the day when I decided to practice, and if I achieve my goal, I allow myself to have an ice cream. So you can do different things. Maybe you like video games, maybe you like, I don't know, hanging out with your friends, whatever it is that you like to do. Sometimes it's nice to reward ourselves a little bit. Now that you have your goal and you also have your time set, you will find your watch or your phone and set a timer and start practicing. When you're practicing, always practice with a pencil in your hand. I've had pencil in my hand this whole time. So you can always mark anything that needs marking. Maybe those are some difficult parts that you can remember. Maybe it's a pitch, maybe it's some rhythm, maybe it's the lyrics. Always practice with a pencil. Now let's say that you do not know the piece at all and you're trying to learn a melody of your part. The way you can do that is that you listen to a section first. Maybe you have an audio file from your teacher, your choral director, maybe there's a recording on YouTube that you can use. So what you can do is just listen to the section that you chose first and just follow the section in your music. After that, you might want to play it another, let's say, 2 times. And the second time that you play it, you can start by just humming the melody as much as you can. And do the same thing then the 3rd time. So just try to go through the whole section. Then, after that, you will just kind of like split the section into these phrases. If you're not sure what a phrase is, just think about it as a sentence. For example, in my music, it says, "Believe in what your heart is saying, hear the melody that's playing," and then period. So that is a sentence and that would be my phrase. So I would focus on that phrase first, I would learn the melody. After that, after I feel comfortable with the melody and the rhythm, I would start adding the lyrics. Sometimes the melody can be simple enough that you can do You can sing with lyrics right away, but a lot of times that can be a little bit difficult. Now, when after I have learned the first phrase, I move on to the second phrase and do the same thing. Just the short phrase, I practice it, I sing with the lyrics. Then I try to put both phrases together. And so on. I move on maybe to the third phrase, practice only the third phrase, and then try to add the third phrase to the second phrase. When I have learned all 3 or 4 or 5 different phrases, I try to put them all together. You can still sing that with maybe an audio recording. If we feel a little bit more brave, try to sing it on your own without the audio recording. Now, if you want to go even further and practice what your part would sound with other parts, you can actually play, let's say I'm singing a soprano, so I would play an alto part in a very soft volume in the background and try to sing soprano part on my own, so I can also get used to singing with alto, so I will be ready when I come to, let's say, my choir rehearsal. I will know what my part sounds like with the alto part. Now, let's say maybe you don't need to learn the melody, maybe you already have practiced this in your choir rehearsal and your teacher or the director, they asked you now to go home and review your part and see if there's still something that you are having problems with, so that you can sing this part of the music together with the whole choir. If that is the case, you will do the following. So I would sing the whole section that I was assigned to practice from the beginning to the end. Now, I would try to sing from the beginning to the end, but if I stopped somewhere, what I would do is I would just take a pencil and mark the place where I stopped. Maybe I would circle it. Maybe I would add a little exclamation point. Maybe I wasn't sure about like a certain rhythm, so I maybe just underline, whatever that is, whatever helps you. Then the next thing that you will do is you will just start focusing on these tiny little parts that are difficult for you. Sometimes that can be just maybe a couple notes. Maybe it's one measure that is just a little bit more difficult to you. What you can do if you, let's say, have trouble with the rhythm, you can try and add the counts underneath and then say this very, very slowly in the beat. So we're with 1, 2, 3. There's so much to celebrate. So I had a little triplet that I had a problem with, and then maybe I'll go a little bit faster. There's so much to, and then I can go, there's so much to, there's so much to celebrate, and then I can add more and more. The same thing goes, for example, if you don't maybe know a pitch. Let's say I struggle with this D pitch right here. So I'm not sure how to sing it, so I maybe will just sing this pitch with the pitch that follows. So the melody should go like this. But I can't get do, do correctly, so I'm just gonna go slowly. Do, 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 do. I have this, and now maybe I'll go do, 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 do. So I have both pitches, and now I'm gonna go sing all 3 together. Do, 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 do. And now I start adding the other pitches. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. And that is how you can practice if there are some pitches that are very difficult for you. Now remember, you don't have to sing the whole section if you already mostly know it. Just focus on these little tiny parts and then add the parts to the whole section. You can be singing this whole section over and over, but if you keep making the same mistake, what's the point of your practice? So after you have done practicing all these short little sections, try to sing the whole thing, the whole section from the beginning to the end. And now your practice time is up. And it's time for you to ask yourself, did I achieve my goal? Well, if you did not achieve your goal, That's okay, you have another day tomorrow. And maybe you just learned today that maybe you gave yourself a little bit too little time, or you maybe gave yourself too big of a chunk of a music to practice. So don't worry about that, you'll get better at it as the more you practice. Now, if you have achieved your goal, congratulations and great work. Maybe now you can give yourself that little award. Remember that practicing every day or a few times a week for a very short amount of time can be a lot more effective than trying to practice for an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours just once a week or once every 2 weeks. Practicing a few times a week for a short amount of time will be a lot more effective than trying to practice once a week or once every couple weeks for long periods of time. Practicing little by little will help you just be more successful and actually see your progress. And I promise you that if you do that, you're gonna start to have fun practicing and it will become a part of your daily routine. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about practicing, if you need any more tips. Have fun practicing and keep on singing.